Hello and good day to all friends. This is Mojtaba Rasti from the Thales team, and today is November 11th, 2025. I'm here with you to analyze Bitcoin using the Thales Market Screener tool. Please note that these analyses are for educational and informational purposes only, and if you use them to take positions in the market, the responsibility for any profits or losses will be entirely your own. Well, as we have almost. With this arrow that we drew, the price moved up one step, then pulled back down, and then made another upward move, which went a bit lower than where we had drawn the arrow, around 107,500. From there, this downward leg happened, and we reached the level that we had previously broken, 104,500. We saw a pullback to this level, and that's where we are now. The expectation is we drew it expecting to see some support and a move upward. Of course, this downward move led to the RSI breaking below the moving average. The RSI dropped below the moving average, and now we have to see whether this is a fake out. If it spends a bit of time here and then turns back up, or if it's setting the stage for a further move downward. Keep in mind that we're in a trend here, as we mentioned yesterday as well. Look, we're in a trend here, and if we consider the trend like this, if we look at it this way, we could easily come down to 102. Even if we come down to this lower zone, to 102, nothing special happens. We're still moving within this upward trend. But if this 102 level is seriously broken to the downside, then this upward trend will be compromised. Right now, we're almost at the midline of this upward channel. So for now, everything is on track. Now, technically, things are moving forward within the framework of this established upward trend. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Well, the movement has been upward. Now, this candlestick has basically reversed and almost completely covered the previous candle. And what we see here is a pullback to the moving average. A clear pullback to the moving average after breaking above it. Now, we have to see in the coming days whether this will lead to support and another move upward or not. Let's switch back to the 4-hour chart and check the market screener to see what we've had from the start of today up until now for the upcoming expiration. Tomorrow is November 12th. A total of 2,069 Bitcoins have been traded in the form of 1,298 options contracts. The result is a curve like this. It's a bullish curve that aims for profits above around 108,700. The point is, when we move the slider forward, you see from here the bullish trend and curve start to drop, and the curve becomes volatile. It stays volatile even if we move the slider to the end of the trades. It's a volatility phase, and right now we're at the bottom of that volatility. Our volatility floor is at 103,700 and 103,800. Peak profit is at 105, and the volatility ceiling is at 107. The bullish move at the start has been realized. There were two bullish legs, reaching up to 107,500, so the ceiling is achieved. Now we're heading toward the floor, which is 790. We can bring this down more. Look, 103 and. Here, it doesn't make much difference. 103,790 is the volatility floor. Below that, it goes into loss. So there's little expectation for it to drop further tomorrow. Our ceiling is 107,000, and volatility is in this range. In the process database, it's been volatile from the start. Again, the volatility floor is 103,725, and the ceiling is 107,400. 107,510 is higher. So, for tomorrow, we're expecting volatility between this point and 107,400. The market is anticipating movement within this range. Let's move on to drawing the zones and the indicator. You can see the points of contact. There are a lot of buyers. You see, buyers have taken over the market quite a bit. Actually, you can see more bullishness among the buyers, because in reality, buyers have considered very low points, and actually, the curve shape, well, both sides of it are high, but the buyers, they've seen the price floor as very low, seeing profits at 101,000 and below. In contrast, put sellers don't see the floor below 103,300. So, we see the upper intersection, the upper agreement, at about 106,700. Actually, 106,670. In the profit zone that's formed, you can see the agreement zone, though it's small. The lower agreement is at 103,120, which is in loss. So overall, here again, you can see alignment at the upper point, 106,600. If we consider reaching 107,500 or 600 here, it's achieved. Alright, let's go ahead and update the zones and continue. As you can see, the zones, the upper zone, as we mentioned, is a very narrow zone. It's an area of agreement, and in the rally, we even passed through it. Now, as we're moving downward, the zones have gotten very close to each other. Interestingly, it's as if the zones have come to fit within the floor and ceiling of this bullish trend. Now, if you pay attention, the lower zone is wider, even though there's less agreement on it, but it has a greater width and it fits nicely along the lower edge of our bullish trend. So, the very bottom is now at 101. Therefore, now that we've touched the area of maximum profit and loss and are spending time there, it seems like we could drop down to the top of this lower zone at 103,300, or even lower, down to 102. And as we said, this won't really disrupt the bullish move. Alright, let's take a look and move on to the next part. Delta and Gamma. Well, here Delta and Gamma have a pretty clear situation, in a way. Well, actually, I think I figured out where the problem is. Look, there's a point about the zones. The shape of the zones was kind of off, which I just realized. This was actually processed on the database, so we need to consider it like this. And let me. It might change the whole story, you see. Now it's fixed. Now the zones are correct. But of course, still, the situation here slightly favors the upper zone, but both are at a loss. That's the point. Both are losing. Even though the upper is at 107 and 160, and the lower is at 102 and 500, or 102 and 440, both are in the red. So, this is a volatile situation, and both are also zones of disagreement. There's no agreement, just a difference of opinion between buyers and sellers. So, we can still imagine similar volatile conditions. I'll update the zones and we'll continue. The zones haven't changed much. Again, the upper zone is a bit wider, and the lower one is still at the bottom of this upward trend. Our middle zone, at 305,000, is no longer really a zone, it's just a line now. So overall, not much has changed. Let's enter these points into the indicator and continue. Well, as you can see, the trend of both bands is still upward. The price is moving right along the red band, touching the green band. The music, our ceiling for tomorrow, is relatively predictable compared to our forecast for tomorrow. The ceiling we had predicted for today, as you can see, has gone up very slightly. It's almost stable. But the floor has continued its upward movement. Given this ongoing trend, overall, we can still say that the expectation can be toward the upside. Okay. Let's move on to the delta and gamma that we left halfway through reviewing. Delta and gamma. Well, this is in a situation where the slider covers all the trades, and as you can see, we're at the beginning of a bullish movement, with its gamma at 107,700. They're around 108, and there's another important parameter point at 109,300. Here, we're at a floor. We've reached a floor that starts here, from 104,600 to about 100,150. This is the delta floor. If we want to be more precise, up to the point where the delta hasn't shown sharp curvature, we can say it's 102,000. From there and below, the curvature increases a lot. Up to 102,000, the delta's movement is sharp, so our floor could be around that value. If we move the slider forward to where the curve changes, you'll see something like this. Move it a bit further, look. This is the same volatile situation we talked about. We have a strong short gamma for the ticker at 105, and almost a long gamma at 105 here. Here, as you can see, the price has formed a zone and paused here. Actually, it's formed a base. Sorry about that. Now, in a way, you could say it's a base. And there's a gamma for the ticker on the downside, which clearly means a long put gamma has been bought. A put has been bought, and it's at 94,000. The 94,000 where the gamma short is for the maker, at 94,000. It's down here, low, and these numbers are showing up again. Now we have to see soon how serious it is, because a move to the downside is always possible. This has faded a bit, but it's not impossible. So, these are the two main gamma levels we have for tomorrow. But as you can see, the floor and ceiling that this red curve gives us are around 103,700 and 107,000. Alright, let's move on. Let's take a look at the upcoming expirations to see what we can infer. Let's calculate this. If I add the November 13th expiration, you can see the upward movement intensifies. That's another point to note. It became strongly bullish. If I remove the November 12th expiration, yes, you can see that for Thursday, which is actually November 13th, the trades that came in today are completely bullish. They want prices above 109 for Thursday. They want prices above 109. So, we can say this is a setup for another attempt to break through 107. And now, the ceiling that's been set is 107 and 500, and up to 109 could be the target. Friday, November 14th, gives us a bearish outlook. Interestingly, it's bearish, but you see, it considers below 102 as profit, but on the upside, our delta is still at the end of this sharp move. If we count all the way to the peak, it could go up to 109 and 500. Keep in mind that it could go up to 109 and 500, all the way to the end of the delta. And here, the red curve has a profit peak. See, that's 115. And we have a conditional gamma up to 118 and 400. That means from the delta peak here, from 109 and 600, about 110, down to this lower area, well, we won't go all the way to the bottom, but around 120, calls have been sold. Calls have been sold here, meaning a very wide range has been set as the ceiling, from about 110 to, say, 118. When calls are sold in this range, the price can come up and see a ceiling somewhere in this range. So, it could also see this area. If the move is sharp, the price can come up and stop somewhere in the ceiling where calls have been sold. You can also look at the situation this way, considering the upward trend we have right now. This is important. If we turn around in this move and break through this ceiling, we're heading toward a scenario where we'll see a ceiling here, for which calls have been sold. Otherwise, well, here puts have been bought for the downside, with their average at 100,400, 101,000, so this is the path it's taking. Look, if we move the slider forward, you'll see the Saudi League went up. This is another issue you need to pay attention to. In the last hour, the bullish trades for Friday have gained a lot of strength, really surged. You should know that their intersection point is at 112,500. So it comes down again, and in this last hour, you can see the game has become a bit bearish again. The ceiling seen is 109. Recent trades for Friday, the short steps, are at 109. So, let's not interpret Friday too much for now. Thursday is giving us a very clear bullish outlook, even though, well, it's 907 bitcoins, but it's still giving us a bullish perspective, and it fits with our scenario. So we come here, find some support, and make a push up to 109, up to where we marked with the flash. Then here, we could reach the next ceiling, and again here, reach the next ceiling. Here, we might see a correction, which could be that scenario we considered for Friday, meaning we dip lower and then gather strength again, this time to break through 110. So, that's it for the other expiries we reviewed. Let's move on it. Let's take a look at the detailed trades. Looking at the detailed trades, out of 2,069 Bitcoin, 1,168 Bitcoin were bought, 833 calls were bought, and 334 puts were bought. Calls were bought above. He wanted 107 and 300, and considering the timing of the trades, the entry time is almost on this green doji candle. So, the entry happened here. Therefore, we reached 107 and 560, so our call purchases were realized, and now we're probably moving toward buying puts. Now look, even though our put purchases are fewer, they saw profits below 104 at 103,700, which went up to 104,120. 103,700 is right here, so there's a bit here. The sellers, 901 Bitcoin sold, 470 call options sold, 430 put options sold, almost equal, but call sales are a bit higher. There's a 40 Bitcoin position that saw the top at 105,780, which is clear. And if, as they say, we push the trend, the price was seen at 106, which has been observed. This top has also been seen, and this very top has stopped the price. The call sellers have stopped the price. It's been realized. Now, let's look at the put sellers. The put sellers didn't see the bottom as very low. They sold the bottom, and for tomorrow, they saw 104,170, which has also been seen here. Still, we'll bring this down to 103, or even to 103,500. We could even come down to here, meaning we could see the top of this lower zone. It seems that this is the target for the put sellers for tomorrow, and considering that Thursday is bullish, we can interpret this as something significant. Also, since we are still moving within this bullish trend, we can imagine support forming here, which could then push the price toward an attack on 107,500. So, this is the detail from the trades, which for now is confirming the correction. Alright, let's move on to the process database. 867 Bitcoin, and we don't have any negative open interest. Well, there are also some strategies that might be able to guide us. Most of these are probably short strangles and short straddles, based on what the curve is showing. Okay, 10 Bitcoin, 49 trades, 12 Bitcoin, 34 trades, 15 Bitcoin, 11 trades. So, to have the strategies, let's use the 12 Bitcoin one. Overall, it's the same. Look at the situation. It's volatile here, so we have a strategy for that. Look, this is a short straddle. Okay, 105 is the peak profit. The ceiling is 167. The floor is 133, 103, and even 200. I mean, we can even go up to here. This upper zone is good. Right here is good. We can come down from here, and the other strategy we have here is probably the same. Look, this one is the same, and this one too. Let's add all of these together and see what the total volume will be. And also this one. And these two as well. Look, it's pretty much the same. It's about 225 Bitcoin. Now, look here. The curve has broken. It's changed angle. but we can basically say, with some leniency, that it's a short straddle with a floor of 225 Bitcoin. So, 6,900, 107. It seems like there's some volatility here, meaning the lowest point we might see would be down here, at most around this 103 and 2,300 that we've drawn here. That's probably where it will be, and then a move toward 107, which will likely be an attempt to break through this 107,500. That's what we can outline for tomorrow, especially considering the bullish conditions expected on Thursday. This is another important point, the bullish conditions expected on Thursday. In terms of trading volume, we can see there's about 40 Bitcoin, which is quite heavy, on the short call at 106. Considering that this was entered in the morning, it's most likely already settled, and we don't have any other particularly heavy trades. There's a 20 Bitcoin trade, which is a long put at 94. That's set pretty low, so now we have to see whether the issue was about hedging or not. Checking the liquidation map. Past 24 hours, we've moved to collect lower liquidity, down to 103,300 and 102,800. There's still liquidity there. Liquidity is also building above. Now, the 48-hour view. It's still the same here. Look, down to 103,200, and at this stage, even down to 101,600, there are different layers of liquidity. On the other hand, at 108, liquidity is accumulating above. So, to sum up, considering the bullish trend we're in, as long as a very important support level below isn't broken, the trend remains valid. Therefore, we expect support here, given the trend we're seeing for Thursday, around 103,300 to 103,400. We expect support, and from here, another push toward 107 to 107,500. If that breaks, it will head for 109, and probably there we'll see another pause and a pullback downward. If this support doesn't hold, the next support could be the bottom of this bullish wave, and the middle of our lower channel is around 102. 102 itself is also an important area, and from here, we could see that 102 becomes the bottom of this bullish channel we've drawn, and it could provide support again for a move toward the top. If that breaks too, well, things get a bit tricky. It might head back toward 100,000 or even lower. But for now, our outlook remains bullish unless proven otherwise. For now, we're sticking with these arrows. Thanks for your attention, and I hope this was helpful.